Well, hello and welcome to the Women I Worry About podcast. My name is Maggie Lamley. I am a wife, a mom, an ER ICU nurse for 16 years, integrative genetic specialist, certified personal trainer. I train humans, I train dogs. Buy me a tent, I could probably open up a circus. Um, if you are new here, welcome. If you got to see our trailer, our first episode, welcome back. I unloaded a whole bunch of shit in the first episode. So if you missed it, you should go back and listen to it because I've been through some things. I've seen some things. Um, but anyway, today's episode, I want to talk about why strong women don't ask for help. And I'm just going to kind of relate this to what I've been through as an ER and ICU nurse. And so, as a nurse, it starts even before you graduate. You are put in a position of authority. We literally, like, every year since the beginning of time, I think this is not based on research, but we are the most trusted profession. People trust us, people need us, people depend on us. And so I think from the very beginning I had this ingrained thought process that this is, I have to carry everything. I have to be the one to make these decisions. I have to be the one. I mean, people see somebody who's competent and who is, you know, knows what to do in an emergency. And that is, my mom actually told me, we've had lots of conversations about um, how I get into all this stuff. And she said, Maggie, the reason people call you is because you are a fixer. It's what you do. They trust you. They know that in the worst times of their lives or in a bind, they can call you and you will show up. And 9 times out of 10, you're able to identify the problem and find a solution. And I was like, holy crap, holy crap. My mom, she's usually always right. I'm like, that's it. But, you know, where everyone's was like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you carry it all. Where people saw that competence and that strength, I was dying inside. I was exhausted. And honestly, it was I was giving so much to everyone else. Number one, there was none left for me, and number two, there was none left for my family. And so I didn't know it at the time, and this actually kind of brings up a story of she's a nurse that she taught me the ropes in the ER when I moved from ICU to ER. She was forced to show me. We all know, okay, right? We're all nurses. We would rather not drag a student around or a new employee around, but it's just the way it goes, and uh, don't you lie. If you're a nurse, we would rather not have to do that, but I know it's the way it goes. Anyway, she drugged me around, showed me all the things. Um, Fantastic nurse, and all I could think of is she's so confident. She is so capable and competent that I want to be like her, And when you go to a new unit, it's always kind of clunky and weird, and there's a lot. And I'm one of those people who I hate to be the person who doesn't know what's going on. I want to know all the things before we ever start, so I don't look dumb. And so it was it was lots of learning, lots of different things I had to go through. But after I posted my first episode, which again, if you guys haven't listened, go back and listen to it because this will make a lot more sense. She sent me a message and she goes, I had no idea. I had no idea what you were going through. And she told me, she said, it changed me forever as well. And, and I thought, you know what? I didn't know she was struggling. She looked tough. She was carrying everything, just like she had since the day we started. I'd worked with her for, gosh, 7 years before COVID hit. And during COVID, she said it changed my life. It changed me forever. Um, and, after she wrote that message, I was driving down the road and I thought, we sat 6 feet apart for 13 hours at a time. or we were so close the whole time, and we were both struggling so much and had no idea. We had no idea the other person was struggling. She had no idea I was drinking that entire hour. I was headed home crying and drinking because I couldn't handle what was happening where we both were. I had no idea that she, you know, was being forever changed by what was happening around us. And I just it breaks my heart because, you know, if we'd have only known, right? I could have reached out to her. I could have said, "Hey, I feel you. I feel you." Or if she'd have known, she could have said, "How can I help?" Or, it's just, and so I hope that this podcast can be that reach out for people, nurses especially, because I know, especially ER, trauma, ICU, all of those things, even if you didn't go through COVID, it's a tough gig. It is a tough gig. You have to be able to come out of a room where somebody's child just died and walk into your next patient's room with a smile on your face, ready to go. And that's not something that they teach you. That's not something that comes naturally to a human. That is something that, unfortunately, experience bad trauma, you know, bad cases just builds in you. And unfortunately, over time, you become calloused. There's the human brain is a wild thing, and I won't get into the science of it, but there is no way you can work in an ER and be unaffected. I don't give a shit who you think you are. um, you are literally the person that is responsible for someone's life when they are having the worst day of their life. Um, and so you get a very intimate, personal, up close look at some pretty terrible stuff. And there just has never, I was thinking about this nurse who mentored me. There were no services for us. There still are very few that I know of. Um, but I would almost guarantee that you could diagnose every single nurse that's working in a trauma or ER or ICU with PTSD. And it's very real. I mean, and it's not like and I'm not taking away from anyone's experiences, but I can tell you that it's something that the hospitals should be addressing and dealing with 100%. Um, the the long-term effects of being exposed to horrible shit um, is I mean, literally almost resulted in me taking my life. And I know a nurse that I worked with. She was a travel nurse, worked with us before COVID hit, ended up committing suicide during the tail end of COVID. I don't know the whole story, but I can tell you that's not the first case that I've heard. And so, anyway, like I said in the first episode, I feel like that if I would have had somebody like me now, back then, my life would have gone a lot differently. Now, I do think that God put me through that stuff and kind of sent me to rock bottom and got me to that turning point for a reason. He was preparing me for things to come, which we'll get into. We'll get into later. But I don't know. I feel compelled to be able to help women, especially these mamas that are carrying around so much, and they're just smiling and acting like everything's fine. Meanwhile, they are losing everything that makes them them from carrying the weight. And so, um, when I created this, or, kind of came up with this idea and wanted to do this, that's who I want to talk to and that's who I want to help. And so, I'm not I'm not going to be able to fix your problems. I don't think. I don't not I That's not what I'm here for. I am here because I want you all to be seen and heard and understood and maybe leave with some hope. Um anyway, kind of got off track there. So there actually is, I when being a nurse, again, kind of going back, we were just expected to carry it. We were just it was our job. This was what we signed up for. And so, I never really questioned it. We just carried it until I couldn't. And I became I started abusing alcohol and drugs and, you know, doing terrible things. And so but research even says that caregivers delay seeking support. Like it's proven because they don't um until it's like it's overwhelming and they can't function anymore. But it's because, we often develop this identity. Like it was my identity. Being an ER nurse was my identity. And the mentor of mine, I remember thinking, we all kind of left the ER because it was too stressful. And I remember she had a really hard time leaving because that is who she was. That's who she had been a majority of her nursing life, or nursing career, I think. And it, it's who we are. We are the caregiver. We are the ones who carry the weight. And, um, asking for help didn't align with being the one who was the helper. Like you just didn't have to do that because you were the superhero. And so I think that's one of the things that just keeps us stuck and prevents us from asking for help. And the other thing is we don't want to be a burden on someone else. We're the ones that we carry that. We are the helpers. We don't want to be a burden. We don't want to appear weak. And we don't want people to lose that confidence in us. We don't want them to think that we can't handle it. And if that isn't a statement that fits me to a T, I don't know what is. Like, I didn't want people to think I was weak. Period. End of story. I didn't want people to think I was a piece of shit when I was drinking every day. I was so concerned about, what people would think if they knew how broken I was. And so another thing I think that strong women who carry too much is that they don't want to lose that independence. I am very independent. Like, that meme of the lady carrying the refrigerator by herself because her husband's not going to be home in time, and she just wants to get it done. That's me 100%. Yesterday, I was I was cleaning my garage. No way I should have been trying to get this giant Rubbermaid tub up the little, janky ass wooden steps that go up to your attic, the old ones, they're only about like just wide enough to fit the Rubbermaid tub through. No way I should have been doing that. I should have waited for TJ to come home so he could help me. That's not me. I am Miss Independent. I'm going to do it my damn self. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it because I'm also a control freak. And if, I'm going to do it my way because nobody else is going to do it as good as I do it. I mean, let's just be honest. That's me. But I didn't want to let go of that independence. I didn't want to have to let that go. And so I didn't. I just started self-medicating with alcohol and burying that stuff deep down. And we all know that's not very effective. But the being the fixer is who I thought I was. I didn't think I needed anybody else. I was just gonna have to tough it out. And so that didn't work. If you didn't listen to the first episode, I got into a very toxic situation where I was drinking every single day until I would black out or pass out, or, and I wasn't taking care of my children. I wasn't taking care of my family. I was making bad health decisions. Um, and so I kind of, and then there's a point in my life where I was in my living room, and it was it was kind of my turning point, my rock bottom, the point where I decided that I couldn't do what I was doing anymore. Um, I was suicidal, was depressed. I was on a few different medications. I was drinking all the time, mixing drugs in there. Um, and I just, I don't, I had turned my back on God. And so and even when I got to that turning point, I didn't know that that was God. Um, I didn't know it for a long time until somebody kind of opened my eyes. But I want to share. Let me see if I can find it. I have like 478 legal pads here, but this morning, so every morning, I told you guys I listen to an app called Duomo because I am um I'm new to the Bible, and I'm new to scripture, and I'm new to God, and I'm new to all of this stuff. I mean, I've always um believed in God. I've always wanted to be closer. I've gone to church after COVID. Um, I didn't go because I was afraid that I was going to get all of, majority of the people in my church are very old, not super healthy. And I didn't want to go and potentially give them COVID and then have their death be on my hands, is what how I looked at it. And so I stopped going to church. And then there were a few other things that happened that just really kind of um, just turned me away from church and um, and God. And so through this podcast, you guys are going to get to grow with me and learn with me, and I'm not going to do it right. But that's the thing, is this is my life and this is my journey. So and I have to meet myself where I am, and where I'm at right now is I'm a little confused. I'm a little nervous. I am having a hard time letting go of that control. And so, anyway, I listened to an app called Duomo. I talked about it in the first podcast. It is just an app I have on my phone where it starts with just a short prayer. And the thing is I can listen to it. So it has audio, and that's my favorite because I can do it while I'm driving, because I am always on the road. I get up at 3:30 in the morning to start shifts some days. I have two girls who are extremely active, and I live like 30 miles from the nearest town. So I drive a lot. It's probably majority of what I do these days. So listening to it is helpful. The other thing too is I can rewind it and listen to it again. So I love that. Anyway, it does a prayer, and then it will go into a scripture. And so this morning's talked about Abraham, and y'all don't think at any point I know who Abraham is, or what exactly I'm talking about. I'm just telling you what I learned today and how accurate it is. Oh my gosh, you guys. Like, I feel like, well, like God was talking straight to me. Um, but the moral of this scripture, or whatever you want to call it, I don't even know the right words for this. So, I ain't going to act like I do. Um, is that, um, you know, I'm in a season, and I was in a season. I go through these seasons, I think. I think we all do. Um, where God is asking me to surrender something. I don't want to let it go because I'm a control freak. And so I'm holding on so tight that it's keeping me from trusting God fully. And this literally said this on my app. And so, I'm over here rewinding it, and I got my pen and my paper, and I write it down, and it says that I'm holding on so tight it's keeping me from trusting God fully. And I'm like, hmm. The other thing is it says faith is trusting God's promise over my circumstances, even when I don't understand it. Yeah. Yeah. So for Miss Control Freak over here, who, thrives on having control of all of the aspects of something, um, I was like, whoa, yeah. And it's almost, I think I said this in the last podcast, it's like the harder I try to hold on, the wilder things get. But I have to remember that faith is trusting God's promise over my circumstances, even when I don't understand it, even when I don't know the path, even when I don't know where the hell we're going, even when I am like, this doesn't align with what you said. I have to believe. I have to have faith. I have to give up that control. And I don't know if you ever met any ER nurses. We don't give up control very easy. We are the ones who are in control. We're the ones telling everyone what to do. We're the ones, we're saving lives. It's life or death stuff that we're talking here. We are usually the ones in control. And so, and I think even before I was a nurse, control was a huge thing for me. I actually really struggled. So I was born and raised in Columbia, Missouri, and I got a scholarship to rodeo at Northwestern in Alva. And so that was 7.5 hours from home. I'd never been away from home ever. My whole life, little country girl. I most of the time I left my shoes on the bus because I was a little hillbilly. I loved to wear those blue and white Oshkosh striped overalls. Even had like the train conductor hat thing that went with them. Dude, y'all, I lived in those. I was hillbilly as hell. Anyway, got this scholarship to rodeo at Northwestern in Alva, and I'm telling you, I had been in pretty well control of my life, for the most part. I had a job, I had a vehicle, I had horses, rode colts for people, started ponies when I was little. I did all, I was very, everything was very controlled. And then I moved to college. Little old 18-year-old me out here in Northwest Oklahoma. I didn't know sheep shit from apple butter, man. I was shocked, to say the least. Nobody gave a hoot if, I wasn't getting what I wanted. I was on my own. And so it was a major eye opener for me that, yeah, the world, this was not my world that everybody else was living in. And so it started, I noticed at that time that I was like, oh gosh, this is, I do not have control over a lot of things. And so big eye opener. But that's when my like anxiety and depression and insomnia and things like that started to kick off. I actually had to get some medical help for insomnia because I could stay up. I stayed up for days, but I was just like things were so out of my control. It was all new. Anyway, a whole nother deal. But I think that that control started a long time ago. And I'm still kind of that way. I struggle with this. And this isn't, when I'm talking about this and this scripture that I listened to this morning, um, or this interpretation, I still struggle with this. I really struggled with this, um, deciding to do this podcast because this is not comfortable for me. Even if I look like I'm like not nervous, I'm going to tell you that I have just all but had anxiety attacks for the last 4 days thinking about having to record this next episode. It, um, is uncomfortable, but that's the thing, that's the whole thing is I know in my soul, in my heart that this is needed. Someone somewhere needs this. And so I am going to do the hard things. I'm going to make myself incredibly uncomfortable to get my message out there because I know that that's what God has asked me to do. He put it on my heart. I don't know why. Um, but here I am. So you guys are going to get to be part of me stumbling through learning, you know, learning about God, learning about faith, and turning my mess into my message. Um, and I want this to be a place where women like me can be seen and heard and understood and maybe leave with some hope because that's the most, I mean, I could have used this. So if you're here, I'm so happy you're here. But so if you are here, who like who like what do you carry that is just crushing you? And why can't you lay it down? For me, it's a control thing. I can't I have to hold on to it. I have to. And I'm learning slowly that it isn't mine to carry. I can turn that over to God. But oh, you better bet your ass I'm holding on tight. Like every day I have to be like, okay, so don't need to carry that. Um, you can, set that down over here. Uh, but yeah, what are you carrying that's slowly burying you? I mean, are you a mama? Are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? Are you a counselor? Are you a stay-at-home mom? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you that, you know, Fortune 500 CEO? I don't know. I I think that we get into these identities that this is just who we have to be. And what I have learned through many years of being exactly that, um, or identifying as that, as the fixer, as the one who carries it all, as the one people depend on. I've learned that I don't have to do that. And I ain't saying that's easy. I ain't saying it's easy to let that identity go. And I'm not saying that um, you know, that asking for help is easy and that setting things down is easy. But I want you to think like, do you have to do that? Why can't we set some of that down? I don't know. It took me 14, 16 years, 17, 20. I don't know. It took me forever since I was born, essentially. Um, and I didn't really come to that full clarity until probably a couple of months ago. And so here I am. But yeah, so tell me like what are you carrying? And why do you think you can't put it down? Let's just talk about it. I'm not here to, I'm not gonna be your doctor and I'm not gonna be your therapist, but I honestly want to know. I want to know what are you carrying? Um, because the women that I worry about are the ones who never give anyone a reason to worry. But and they're the ones that are convincing everyone that they're okay. And it's okay to not be okay too. That's another thing. You know, like I like I talked about, for me, I didn't want to appear weak. I didn't want to be a burden. because I had built that identity as the person who carries everyone else. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now. Um, but reach out to me. So, I have a Facebook page. It's called the Women I Worry About podcast. I have an Instagram page. It's called the Women I Worry About. And then I have an email, and it's info@thewomenIworryabout.com. And it is, always open. You can comment here. Uh, Tell me your story. I eventually I would like to I want to get some women on here and have them tell their stories, because I feel like when we can tell people a story, we can let you know that you're not alone. We can let you know that, you don't you you're not the only one going through this, and that there's a way out, and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so, tell me your stories. Let me know. And tell me if there's something that you guys want to talk about, because this is for you. Um, this terrifies the ever loving shit out of me. But I am doing this because I know that it's needed, and I want women like me to be seen, heard, and understood. So, anyway, reach out to me and let me know what you want to talk about, or if you have a story to share. Have a good one.